Are you ready to perform at your highest potential? Welcome to the Performance Matters podcast from GP Strategies, your talent transformation partner. In each episode, we'll interview industry experts and explore best practices and innovative insights to help your organization improve performance. What are some of the things that you're seeing just as emerging trends that we should be aware of as it pertains to learning and development and AI?
Well, I mean, I think, there's a couple of things from the tool side that I don't even really have to have much of a crystal ball. We're already seeing some things that are coming forward for that. So there's a couple of, I'd say, as you know, we've kind of talked a little bit about before, we're looking at breaking down applied AI in the L&D space into like a categories of tools. What are they applied towards? What are they trying to achieve with them? And so it's been pretty interesting. There are definitely some front runners we're seeing a lot of activity in. So I think one of the interesting ones is translations, and translations is definitely a hot topic. A lot of our customers are really looking to be able to reduce the cost and the timeline. We're constantly creating new content for them. They have a lot of information they need to share in the organization, and it needs to be translated while out there. And that's probably been one of the bigger challenges in the space, is to get it translated fast, efficiently, and accurately. And so with AI, it kind of, the generative AI brings in, the large language models. They're really
Hmm.
transformative. They're really set to kind of think through languages. So translation is a good application for those kind of tools. So there's a lot of promise around those. So we're seeing kind of four ways to kind of how that's being solved.
Okay.
This question for the clients are, how can we get translations out there better, faster, cheaper? Really, but we want good, and we want to get it out there successfully. So there's four ways that the industry is kind of shaking out right now. We've got what I would say, the legacy translation companies that have been out there, been doing this for a while. They've got large translation memories. They have a process. They've got these tools that are set up for translations, and they have definitely been experimenting with bringing in AI more into the system, especially with the generative. So they're
Hmm.
looking to kind of roll that into the hybrid set of tools with what they have. So you definitely see their evolution on a path to be able to say, what can we do to kind of, from a large language model, how can we use that to address the cost, time, speed, thing, while still having a great product. The other one I would say are the individual companies that are generating. These are what I would call more the startups, and so these are companies that are fit
Hmm.
for purpose. They're going to do translation, but they're going to hook up to a large language model. They're going to create type of a user interface where I can upload what I need to have translated, pick the languages, it'll come back down to be translated for us. So that's the second one. Now there's two kinds of those. Those are the ones that are just providing the tool only. So think of it as a self-service. You get access to the same translation tools.
Right.
You upload it, you get it back. The second grouping of this one is actually where they're bridging kind of like a project workspace interface. So you go in, you're going to manage your translation projects, and then you're going to have not only the machine learning that's able to do that, but you also will have the network of translators. So they actually have human translators as a network. So think of it as like an Uber where you're connecting to a translation network on one side. So you had it translated, but it needs to be refined. Now I can go out and find my network of
Okay.
translators. So the first one is just machine only. The other one is machine plus network. The traditional ones definitely have a network of translators, and they have a hybrid between the legacy plus the new tools. That's the two categories. The third one really is looking at where companies themselves are considering, what would it take for us to set up our own translation. So using our own data, our own translation, our translation memory, creating our own history, but using a large language model. What if we were to do it for our data, for ourselves, be able to be applied with it? Is there an option? So that some of them are starting to look at, like, what would we need to do to set that up internally? And then the last one is what I would call native translation in some of the content or asset generation tools. So for example, if I'm out creating, using AI to generate a video from text, so I write in a script or I have it generate a script for me, it'll create a video for that, and then it can actually translate the actual narrative into the foreign language with that, or in the other languages on the fly in that tool. So
Hmm.
that's the fourth category of how we're seeing different people trying to solve that problem. So as you can imagine, each one of those has its own workflow, its own challenges, its own drawbacks. But I think there's a lot of movement and pressure to be able to say, can we address this overall translation? Because translation is just so expensive. And I think the big thing for us as a mindset is we have to think differently about just saying all translations are equal. You know, a small job aid
Absolutely.
to guide your work that's shared with an affiliate in another country. It may, machine language translation that's 80% right, may be good enough. Send it over. Local affiliate can kind of tweak the job aid for what they have, and to be able to use that, that's good enough. If you're doing your mission, vision, and values for the organizations, I probably wouldn't go with like an 80% language translation. Want to make sure it's a little more nailed. So you got to kind of think about, the availability of the content, the risk that's associated with it, and select the pathway that's possible. I don't think there's just one. I think you will look at a portfolio of translation options. But underlying all of this is something that does drive off of big data. So
Hmm.
real battleground is having the 80,000, 100,000 phrases that help you build out your model and make it not just what it was trained on, but also refining it for work that you've already had translated or available for it to take in. So that's translation is a big one. A lot to come in that one. I expect in the
Oh
next
yeah.
we'll see some aggressive.
Well, one of the things that from hearing you from all those different use cases, I got really excited about hearing about where you have the ability to corporately, from an enterprise level, feed in your own information, your own nuanced elements. It's like I know how to say "Where's the bank" in
Yeah,
Spanish just fine, but it's the trade specific language, and if you could start to get to that level where you're right. Then you have an affiliate who's really has the force multiplication where they look at it and are just making a couple fine-tuned tweaks
yeah.
versus going, "Oh my goodness, I have to reverse engineer this whole thing." I mean, that gets really exciting for sure.
It is, and I think it's really intriguing to be able to see. Now that gets back that if you take it in house, that means you're training and refining the database with your data.
Hmm.
You're managing it. It becomes part of what you do. So that means you have to take on that skill set. You kind of got to know what you're doing, but you can own it. Some of
Hmm.
the other ones you can actually do it. So like the startups, you can still use your own translation memory with it and refine it specifically for you. You just are kind of going into your own project space on that. But that's
Interesting.
held on the side of, in that SaaS model that's held by the owners of that system.
The Performance Matters podcast is brought to you by GP Strategies. Together, we can create a world where business excellence makes possibilities achievable. You can subscribe to the show anywhere you get podcasts or listen on our website at gpstrategies.com.